Hey guys, what's up? Hope everyone's doing okay. Hope you're all keeping yourselves active, healthy, sane, all those good things. What I wanted to do today is introduce you to a system of mobility training that I've been using for the past couple years now, called FRC. This will apply to everyone watching, whether you're a fitness person, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, Krav, anything. Anybody could benefit from building up their mobility, learning how to control their body a little bit better. So don't think this is just for the jiu-jitsu people. I might use some examples specific to jiu-jitsu, but this is good for everyone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some basic concepts to kind of introduce you to the fundamental principles of this system, and then we're going to go through our morning routine. It's something I like to do kind of, every day, just to maintain my joint mobility. Let's start off by kind of defining what this system is. First of all, FRC stands for Functional Range Conditioning, and it was a comprehensive joint and mobility training system developed by Dr. Andrea Spina. The three main goals of the system are to develop mobility, which we'll kind of define in a minute or so. So one is developing mobility. Two, we're looking to strengthen your joints to help kind of bulletproof those joints, safeguard yourself from injury. And three, looking to develop better kinesthetic control, or better kind of precise control of our body. We'll do some drills later on that'll show you that you probably can't control your body as well as you think you can. And don't worry, neither can I. So pretty typical issues to have as my dryer goes off in the background. So let's start off by kind of giving you a definition of mobility, kind of in comparison to flexibility. A lot of times we think of these things interchangeably. We think, okay, flexibility, mobility, same thing. At least for our purposes here, we're going to differentiate the two because it is important. So flexibility is your passive range of motion of any joint or tissue. So it's kind of the longest range of motion you're able to achieve passively. So what that means is if somebody else is stretching for us, or if we're using a band or belt to help pull ourselves into a stretch, or using gravity to help pull ourselves into a stretch. All right, that's going to be flexibility. That's just the passive range of motion, or the longest tissue length we're able to get through a specific joint or limb. Mobility is going to be our active range of motion, which basically means the range of motion that we're able to control. The idea is to try to be able to control whatever range of motion our body has. So ideally, whatever your maximum passive range of motion is going to be, we want to eventually be able to own that range of motion and be able to control it actively. So to kind of demonstrate what I mean here, I'll show you with a basic hip flexion the difference between active and passive range of motion here. So what I'm talking about, I'll show this kneeling so I actually stay in frame. For hip flexion, my passive range of motion is how high I can pull my hip into flexion by using my hands, or even using gravity and using the floor, bringing my chest down to my knee. That's going to be a passive range of motion. So that's how far that joint can move, whether that's because of the extensibility of the tissue itself, or just because I'm hitting my body and running out of kind of end range. Active mobility is going to be the amount that I'm able to control here. So for example, from the same position, if I'm here, just lifting up, just using the muscles of my hip and leg, you see there's a major difference there between my active and passive range of motion. So we eventually want to build that up so I can control that whole range. So again, we're talking about here for passive versus here for active. It's a huge difference. So we eventually want to work to be able to control that whole range. So what we're going to work on today is kind of just one basic tenet of this system, which is called CARs, or controlled articulated rotations. This is going to be more to maintain the range of motion we already have rather than expanding the range of motion. We'll get into that at a later time as we kind of go further into the system. But right now, we're just worried about maintaining what we've already got for a range of motion. So we're going to be using this as a morning routine. This is something hopefully we could do every day, either first thing in the morning or as a warm-up before we work out, or as a warm-up before we get into more intense kind of mobility training. All right. So again, there are other techniques that we use to expand our range of motion that we'll get into later. But for today, we're just focusing on these techniques to maintain the range of motion, kind of the use it or lose it principle. People think that we get less mobile because we get older, things like that. It's really, our bodies are really good at adapting. Our bodies are super efficient, and they're going to build the ability to do whatever we're kind of trying to make them do regularly. So if you're not using these ranges of motion, your body just figures, okay, I don't need that range of motion, and you lose it, it goes away. So we want to work our best to maintain what we have. So we're going to start working on that by going through this basic morning routine of full body CARs, which stands for controlled articulated rotations. Essentially just joint circles, but with an emphasis on really controlling the entire range and getting the biggest range of motion possible out of each of these joints. All right. So first technique we need to think about that's going to apply to every one of these different CARs for each body part is going to be irradiation. So I want to think here about taking a big breath into my lower abdomen here. So big breath, expanding that rib cage, expanding 360, so we're not just puffing that stomach out, but we're kind of blowing up this whole balloon all the way around our body, 360. Okay, so once we take that big breath, we're locking that into our lower abdomen, and we're starting to develop tension through our core, tension out through our limbs, so we're squeezing our arms a little bit, squeezing our legs a little bit. It doesn't need to be maximal tension right now. We're not going as hard as we can. There are times for that. For the morning routine, we're going to keep this around 20 or 30%. The reasoning for this is we want to maintain some tension, so we're only moving the joint that we want to move. We're trying to isolate joints here, so we don't want to compensate by moving through other parts of our body. So I'm going to take my shoes off. You can actually see what's going on here. We're just going to start this first part sitting back on our feet. I'll give you a couple options here, guys. So we could be sitting just on the tops of our feet. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, I suggest getting yourselves used to being in this active foot position, getting used to these toes being flexed. Good time to work on this uncomfortable position while we're not actually training. So it's always good to work that toe flexion. So that could be here. If we want to, we can come all the way to a tall kneel where we're not sitting back on our heels. But let's kind of get into it. So remember, we're trying to maintain this irradiation through our body the entire time. So nice deep breath, maintaining everything nice and tight. We're just going to start by working a full range of motion with our neck. So we're just making it as big of a circle as we can with the neck. I'm going to get a little closer here. So all I'm doing, I'm tucking my chin down as far down as I could go, arms nice and long, tracing my collarbone, nice big circle, turning as far to the right as I can, coming up, looking up to the ceiling, big stretch, all the way to the left, tracing down that left collarbone back to the center. I'm going to go twice more in that direction. Making as big of a circle as I can. Not letting the rest of the body move, so we're not arching the back as we come through here. Only that next moving. And one more. Good. So, after our neck, we're going to start working our thoracic spine. So this upper portion of our back from about our rib cage up to the base of our neck. So all I'm doing here, sitting in that same position, still developing that good irradiation, not moving the rest of the body. So tension through the rest of the body. I'm coming down, flexing as much as I can. So I'm here, trying to round that upper back as much as possible. From there, I'm going to rotate to my right as far as I can. I don't want to shift my hips, so I'm just twisting as far as my spine will let me. Once I hit the end of that range of motion, I'm leaning down to that right-hand side. Leaning back, nice and big. All the way to the left. Good. Making as big of a circle as I can. So twice more in that direction. Big circle. Good. Shake it out. Relax for a second. I'm going to go back in the opposite direction. Good. We're here. Folding down, rolling around to that back as far as we can. Turn as far as we can to our left without shifting through those hips. This is all coming through the spine. From here, leaning to the left. Leaning as far as back as we can. Bending to the right. All the way back down to the center. So, big circle. Side bend. Back bend. All the way to the right. Once more. Good. The idea is to control and make as big of a circle as we can. We're trying to move kind of one vertebrae at a time. All right. So, next one as we go on, moving on to our shoulder blades. So not the shoulder joint yet, but trying to move the shoulder blades as much as we can. So, in this one, again, maintaining tension so we're not moving the rest of our body. Arms nice and long. Bring those shoulders up as high as we can. Coming forward, down, and back. Big of a circle as possible. So up, forward, down, back. One more before we switch directions. Just really pushing our shoulder blades down, pulling our shoulder blades together into our back pockets, and up. We're going to switch directions, same thing, other way. Up, back, down, forward, up, back, down, forward. One more. Okay. From there, we're going to move into the shoulder joint itself. So, for this one, I want to make sure I'm locking that scapula or that shoulder blade in place, so I'm not moving my shoulder blade up and down as I move through. This motion's kind of all coming right through this glenohumeral joint, so the ball and socket of our shoulder. I want to make sure as I make these big circles with my arms as I come through that I'm not compensating by rotating my body, not letting that shoulder blade move, not letting my back bend to one side or the other, just moving through that joint. So we're trying to make the biggest circle possible, but the biggest circle possible without compensating and moving through other parts of our body. So, same position. Let me see if I can do this without hitting anything. All right, for this, I'm going to come into a little bit taller of a kneeling position, come back up on those toes, so that way I can get that arm nice and long. So, what I'm doing here is palm starts off facing in. I'm reaching up as high as I can. Once I kind of hit that roadblock where I can't go any further, I'm actively trying to push through that range of motion. Once I can't move any further, I'm rotating that palm out, so I'll drop back down so you can see. Let's see. Do the seated so you can kind of see. But again, I'm here as high as I can. Once I hit the top of that range of motion, keeping that elbow nice and straight, keeping that torso locked in, rotating that palm to face the outside, coming all the way down behind me as big of a circle as I can. Continue rotating until that palm faces out to the side at the bottom. Sorry, I'm adjusting my position so you can kind of see where I'm at. So from here, I'm just going to reverse. So from the side, get up high so my hand's not touching the ground. Palms facing the outside, coming up as high as I can. Right there, I'm kind of hitting that roadblock so everything's locked in. Rotating the hand around. Big circle through the shoulder blade, not letting that torso rotate. Coming up, palms facing in at the top, and coming back down. So 2 more of those. So up to the top with the palm facing in. Once I hit that roadblock, palm rotates out. Big circle behind me. Nice, slow, controlled. Hit that roadblock. back through. Got one more on this side before we switch. So we're here, rotating out, palm faces out at the bottom, and coming back. Same thing, other side. Again, make sure you get nice and long. All the way up. Once I hit that stop or that end of range of motion, I'm going to rotate out, not leaning my back, just making that range of motion through my shoulder. Rotating out the entire time, so my palm's facing out. Back up, hit that roadblock, I'm rotating in. Coming around, nice and controlled. Got two more. Nice irradiation the whole time, 20 to 30% squeeze through the rest of the body, so we're not twisting our torso as we do this. We don't want to be coming here to get that range of motion. Everything should be coming right through the shoulder. So here, rotating out, big reach, back up. Good. So now, moving on. So kind of going from the top down. So we're going to move to our elbows here. So we want to kind of work rotation of our elbows, which we don't think about often. We think about our elbows flexing and extending, but there is a little bit of rotation side to side here. So we want to make sure we're getting this rotation through the elbow joint, not cheating and using the shoulder, not using the wrist. We're going to get to our wrists in a minute. So elbow's going to come into my side. So all I'm doing here is I'm going to start with my elbow fully extended. So from here, I'm trying to lift the outside edges of my hand, so the pinky side of my hand is turning. So I'm rotating as far out as I can with those elbows glued to my side, rotating out, curling those elbows up. Once I get to the top, I'm rotating as far in as I can, trying to bring those thumbs down. So I'm rotating those thumbs away from my body. So I'm here, coming back down. From here, rotating back in. So we're trying to raise those pinkies as high up as we can. We're here, coming all the way up. Again, rotating through, pronating those hands, trying to bring our thumbs forward. Back down. One more. So raising those pinkies up, elbows stay locked into the side, as big of a rotation as we could get. And pronating the hands. And back down. Now we're going to do the same thing, but going in the opposite direction. So now with our hands here, we're going to fully supinate. So we're bringing our palms down. So raising those pinkies to the outside. So I'm here, rotating as far as I can outward. Here I'm flexing while maintaining that rotation. Rotating all the way in, so palms are facing me or slightly outside as far as I can rotate through. There's one. Rotating all the way in. Here's two. Rotating again, palms facing towards me. Last one. So as far in as we can rotate, so we're really trying to go as far as we can here. Bring this back up. Turning as far as we can, guys. We're trying to get end range of motion, so we're actively trying to pull ourselves into the farthest range we can. And full extension. Good. That probably has your arms burning a little bit if you're doing it right, so let's shake ourselves out. Next one, we're moving on to our wrists. So, good way to check if you're cheating on this, because again, same thing with this. I want to just move through the wrist joint. I don't want to be moving through my elbow. So a good way to keep yourself honest here, you can always just kind of hold your arm, but another option, throw our cell phone on our forearm here. If you're rotating through the elbow or shoulder, that's going to drop. So that'll tell you, if you're cheating or not. If you don't want to break your phone, you can throw, a deck of cards or anything else that'll kind of balance it, or anything else that's flat. But from this position, trying to go through a nice full range of motion. One wrist at a time. So I'm here. Again, elbows locked into the side. I'm going to bring my wrist up into full flexion. When I come here, I'm not letting my hand bend. I'm not cheating and trying to touch my fingertips to my wrist. I'm trying to keep my hand nice and straight. Coming in as far as I can up. From here, I'm coming to the inside. So I'm rotating around into that lateral flexion. From there, I'm going as big of a circle as I can. So coming out to extension. From here, whole hand is coming this way actively, so towards the camera, and coming back up. Try not to bend that hand. 2 more in that direction. So again, we're trying to make the biggest circle possible. That's almost 2. You see, it's really hard not to drop this thing balancing here. So coming back around. Nice, slow, controlled. That's 3. So I'm going to take that phone off of there. But again, make sure we're not twisting the elbow here. Same thing, going the opposite direction. Hand coming up. Now it's going towards the outside. As big of a circle as I can into extension here. So I'm trying to extend as far as I can down. And coming up to the side. In deflection. There's 1. Big circle. 2. And 1 more. 3. So we're going to shake that out. It's probably going to have our forearm a little bit burning. Same thing, other side. First coming towards the inside. So big flexion. Coming towards the inside. Big extension. All the way to the other side. Flexing as far up as we can without letting those fingers round or bend. Making ourselves wrist lock proof if we do jiu-jitsu eventually as we expand this. Okay, shake that out. Same thing, opposite direction, going towards the outside. This is helping kind of push fluid into these joints, get these joints used to moving and articulating. You're probably getting a lot of popping and clicking. We're trying to, again, get these joints used to using their end ranges of motion. If we don't use these ranges of motion, we're eventually going to lose them. So we want to at least maintain what we have. Good. So that's kind of our upper body. Now we're going to start moving into the lower body, starting with our hips. So we can do these a couple different ways. We do them standing, kind of do them lying on our side. But for right now, I think the easiest way to show these is from a quadruped position. So I'm on my knees, on my hands, we're moving on to hip cars. So my hands are directly below my shoulders, knees are directly below my hips. Let's see if I can get where you guys can see me. So from here, what I'm going to do is bring my knee as far forward as I can. So all this motion is coming through my hip. I shouldn't be rounding my back here. So again, starting as everything. Big breath in, locking everything in place, radiating, squeezing. Big thing I want to think about on this is keeping my arms straight as I move the hip through the full range of motion. If I'm letting one arm bend, it means I'm shifting and kind of cheating and using the other hip for mobility. So both arms are staying locked out the whole time. So I'll show this at a couple different angles so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Yeah, and back's locked in. Bring that knee as far forward as I can, as far out to the side as I can. Then I'm raising that heel up. Big circle coming up behind me. Coming back down. Then rewinding. So you guys don't have to be doing this yet. I'll show you a couple different angles. But I'm here. I'm going to rewind. Coming back up as high as I can. Knee is coming to the outside. Big circle coming back to the front. So showing that from here straight on. It's going to be big breath. Lock that core into place. Squeezing everything. Keeping those arms nice and straight. Knees coming up as far as we can. If I need to walk those hands out a little bit, I can. I'm here. Coming all the way out to the side. If you notice, I'm not leaning as I come out to the side. I'm not compensating through that other hip. Elbows are staying straight. I'm only coming out as far as I can without compensating from here. Raising that heel up nice and high. Rotating that hip. Coming through. We're going to go same thing backwards. So raising that heel to the sky as far as I can using just my glutes. Again, as I raise up here, I'm not letting my back hyperextend. Core is locked in. Raising as far as I can using that hip. Then I'm bringing that knee back to the outside. So the foot's raising up. The foot's coming to the inside. All right. So we're going to do that 3 times in each direction on each leg. So I'll stay at this angle. Hands are directly below my shoulders. Again, elbows are locked out. Bring that knee up, out, up, back down, reversing direction, making sure not to lean, going on to rep 2. Nice, slow control. And one more. Out to the side, big rotation, up, and reverse. Trying our best to keep that spine locked in and not leaning side to side. You can do the same thing, other leg. Show this one straight on. So his elbows are staying straight. Big breath, locking that core in, squeezing everything else. Knee comes up to the elbow, out to the side. Again, I'm not letting myself collapse, so knee out to the side, raising that heel up, straight behind, not letting that back arch, reversing direction, up, knee is rotating out. Leaned a little bit on that one, don't do that, keep those elbows straight. Elbow out to the side, raising that heel up, big reach up without the back arching, reverse. Knee comes out. One more. Out to the side. Heel comes up. Back to the center. Heel up. Knee out. And back in. All right, so that's our hips. Slowly moving down the body. Going kind of rotation of our tibia here. We're not quite at our knee yet. We're going to work kind of just rotating the shin first. This one's a little tough to see, especially with my lighting here. But the idea with this is to rotate through that shin. As you can see, these bones up here near my knee are moving. So when I do this, I don't want to just be here twisting my foot back and forth. That's not the idea. I want this rotation to come through the shin bone itself. So I should see the shin bone and these muscles rotating one side to the other. All right, so I'm going to do this by just kind of sitting on my butt with my feet out in front of me. I'm going to grab a rear naked choke grip on my leg, or I could just hug. I find it easier to come through. Rear naked choke my thigh. So it's coming through. Other hand comes here. Opposite hand comes right on top of the knee. So I'm just lifting that off the ground. I'm going to pull my foot as far into dorsiflexion as I can. So big dorsiflexion, trying to take that ankle joint out of the equation here. So again, the rotation should be coming from the ankle. It's going to be a small range of motion, but I'm just rotating and turning this knee, or this shin rather, side to side. So I'm here, I'm holding, nice full dorsiflexion. Coming in, out. Just going to go 3 in each direction. In, trying to get the biggest range of motion we can, forcing that dorsiflexion, and out. And once more. In, and out. Again, trying to focus on really making sure that this shin is rotating. We're not coming through the foot, not getting this rotation through our hip. Really just trying to force that tibia to pivot. All right, same thing, other side. Again, rear naked choke grip. Hand comes on top of the knee so I can monitor to make sure I'm not cheating and moving through my hip. Again, nice full dorsiflexion here. That kind of locks all his bones in place so the ankle doesn't really turn. Now all of our movement's coming from the knee. So you go to the outside, hold, nice, slow control. As far inside as we can, try not to let that hip move. Back out, in, as far as we can rotate. One more. Oop, don't lose that dorsiflexion like I just did. Guys, where this really comes into play, especially for jiu-jitsu guys, if you've seen me kind of show any of you guys heel hook defense, one of my big things is trying to point my toes and hide my heel away from the way that people are trying to twist it. Being able to independently rotate this knee is really important for hiding that heel, especially if you're talking about somebody trying to inside heel hook you from 50-50, where they've got your knee bent. If my knee is bent here, I can't really use my hip to hide that. If my leg's straight, I could use my whole hip, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of range of motion there. If, again, I'm in 50-50 and they're going for that inside heel hook here, the only rotation I have to really try to hide that heel and start escaping is going to come from this knee. So we do want, like for leg lock defense, this motion's super important. It seems like it's pretty subtle and you're not going to get a ton of range of motion there, but we want to try to build up and use as much as we can. All right, that being said, we're going to move on. This next one is going to be very similar, but we're incorporating the knee on this one. So rather than just rotating the tibia, we're going to be doing that same thing, but we're adding in flexion and extension of our knee. So I'm coming through here. Again, rear naked choke grip, heels off the floor, toes or feet are in dorsiflexion. Again, rotating in from here. I'm maintaining that inward rotation. From there, extending as far as I can. This position is going to lock our hamstring up a bit, so we're not going to be able to fully extend. Once I'm in full extension, rotating as far as I can out and down. Same thing, rotating all the way in, extend, rotating out, and flex. Once more, rotate in, extend, rotate as far out as we can, and flex. Going to do the same thing, going the opposite direction with this leg. So here, your grip, rotating as far as we can out, extend, in, down, out, extend, nice pop there, in, down. Again, make sure we're rotating through the tibia and not just cheating by moving the ankle. Last one, out, extend, in, flex. Good. Same thing, opposite leg. So, rotating in, extend, out, flex. Good, make sure that tibia is rotating the whole time. So in, extend, rotating out, flexing. One more, in, extend, out, flex. Good. Switching directions before we move down to our ankles. So moving out, extend. Again, keeping that dorsiflexion the whole time. Rotating in, flexing, out, extend, in, flex, out, extend, rotating in, and flex. Good. So, almost done as we move down. Next one, we're going to be doing our ankles. So, let me get somewhere where you can actually see my feet. Let me get far enough away. Sorry for showing my weird, gross feet. But here, again, trying to move the ankle through the biggest range of motion that we can. If we sit back with our heel far enough, we can keep our heels on the ground for this, or you can raise it up and go kind of the same way that we were with that rear naked choke grip. The idea is not to use other joints. I'm trying to get the biggest range of motion I can. So what I'm going to do here, just coming up, sorry there's a giant glare from these lights on my phone. Let's see if we can readjust so that's not going so crazy. So again, I don't want to cheat by moving my knee or hip here. I'm trying to draw the biggest circle possible with my big toe. So just moving through that ankle, trying to draw and trace this circle. So I'm going to start off going clockwise. When we do this, I want you to go nice and slow, and we're trying to hit every number on that clock. So think of a clock face. We're coming up into dorsiflexion. Going to hit 12. 1, 2, 3. It's coming down. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As you see, there's some jumpy spots in there. You go 3 times in one direction. So I only move through that ankle, tracing all the way around that clock. Nice control. Once more, don't speed up. It's easy to try to cheat on this one. All right, that's one direction. We're going to switch. Same thing, counterclockwise. Again, try to hit every number on that clock. So we're coming up, down, coming to 6 o'clock, 5, 4, feet are starting to cramp, 3, 2, 1, back to 12, 2 more times through. So any parts of that where it's kind of jumpy and you're skipping numbers there, that's the part we want to focus on. We really want to kind of build that movement through those kind of ranges of motion that our body isn't good at. So it's really easy, as you saw, I did an extra rep there because once I kind of sped through, we don't want to do that. We don't want to cheat ourselves. All right, same thing, opposite leg. So again, starting off clockwise, flexing up as high as we can, trying to get as much dorsiflexion as possible as I get out of focus. So here, tracing that big circle. trying to get all the way around that clock. So back to noon, going back down. Let's start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come back up to 9 o'clock, 10, 11, 12. Once more. So big plantar flexion at the bottom as we come back around. Big dorsiflexion. Once more. Good. Last one, switching directions, going counterclockwise. Nice, slow control. Again, say it again, hitting every number on that clock face. Trying to get as big of a range of motion as we can. All right, so the very last one here, guys, that probably, I'll be surprised if anyone's really good at this. If you are, awesome, send us a video because I'm actually pretty bad at it. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning when I talked about our ability to control our body and how we're all not as good at it as we think we are. So we're going to move down to our toes. And this is where we see that, we really don't have the control we think we do. And it's definitely something we're able to control. It's just neurologically, we don't have those connections built to control. If you've ever seen those kids that are like playing piano with their feet, we know it's possible to have your toes have a lot of dexterity, but because we wear shoes all the time, our dexterity in our feet tends to be pretty terrible, and we don't have a whole lot of control there. So I'll show you what we're talking about. 1 second. All right, so now you guys get to look at my disgusting gnarled feet. So here we go. So hopefully you guys can see. So I'm going to start out here, all my feet on the ground. I'm going to start off just grabbing the floor with my toes. So I'm pressing those toes down into the ground. With that, we want to make sure the whole time we go through all these movements that we maintain our arch, so we're not letting our feet collapse inward. So big toe, little toe, and heel pressing through the ground to maintain that good arch underneath our foot, assuming we don't have flat feet. So pushing into the ground from here, raising all of our toes at once. So trying to lift all of those toes off the floor, hold, and back down. Again, pressing into the floor, really grabbing the floor with those toes. Now lift up, all the toes coming up. And once more, grabbing the floor with our feet, hold, and all the toes lift up as high as we can. Good. Now from here, I'm just going to lift the big toe by itself. The rest of the toes stay down. I'm going to press that big toe back into the floor. Twice more, lifting up as high as I can. Pressing back down. Hopefully you're all able to do this. A lot of people aren't, but we'll see how it goes. One more, lifting that big toe and pressing into the floor. Now, this one gets pretty hard. I'm going to keep my big toe down, lifting all the little toes at once. So the big toe stays down, still trying not to collapse that arch. Back down, under control. I just let all my toes drop to the floor really quick. That's not what we want to do. We want this to happen under control. So raising all those toes up, just gently parachuting back down to the floor. One more. So big toe stays pressing down, lifting those little toes, and slowly lower those back under control. Last one, raising all the toes. From here, I'm going to try to just tap just my big toe. I don't have control of this yet, but we want to try to keep all these toes up and then just tap the big toe on the ground. As you see, we don't have the control we think we do. So even here, everything's up, and tap the big toe if you can. And I lied, this is the last one. Everything's up, all the little toes tap, big toe stays up. Again, everything's up, little toes tap, big toe stays up, and one more. All right. So, as you guys can see with that, especially through our feet, we think we control things. Especially if we're doing a sport where most of us, whether you're doing Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or Krav, a lot of times we're practicing barefoot, and it's important that we're able to control things with our feet, guys. We need that awareness of where our feet are. That really helps control our knee position. That helps prevent knee injuries. So building a strong foot from the ground up is really good and really important. But Besides that, this the whole point of this morning routine thing that we just did, I just spent a bunch of time explaining this, a lot longer than it would actually take. Normally, actually going through this routine once you're used to it and not talking through the whole thing usually takes about 10 minutes. So don't think you're going to have to spend a half hour every morning on this. I was just trying to explain everything as best as I can. So, if you can, for the next few days, try to spend a few minutes in the morning working on this, especially any joints that you have that are, really limited or really stiff. But ideally, we would go through our whole body. So whether you're starting from the feet up or the neck down, it doesn't really matter the order you go in. And this isn't the only way to do these. All of these movements could be done in different positions, slightly different techniques. This is just kind of one way to go about it. So don't think this is the only way to approach this. But this is what we're going to be using kind of as our morning routine just to get ourselves moving in the morning to maintain our mobility. This is what I like to use to warm up before I get into the more intense kind of applications of FRC where we are really trying to expand our range of motion. So again, this is just kind of maintaining what we have. So if you do this every day, you should theoretically not be losing any of that range of motion as we kind of age and beat our bodies up. Hopefully I explained that well. If anybody has any questions, make sure to comment below, leave those questions, and I'll answer them as best as I can. And as the week goes on or whatever, as time goes on, we'll kind of go into more exercises to expand the range of motion that we do have. Hope that helps. Hope you guys like that. Again, leave any questions if you have them. Thanks.